Hey everybody, welcome to the PixelBlips podcast for May 19th, 2013. I'm Andy Ryan. Happy birthday to me. It's actually my belated birthday. I'm old now.
No, you're 29. You're not old yet.
I'm old. Well, I'm not as old as you. Joining as always is this old screw bag. Dave, Dave, what are you playing this week?
So my work is actually having a Biggest Loser competition this week, or actually for the next 16 weeks. It started a couple of weeks ago. So as part of that, I'm trying to get in shape, trying to do stuff because I'm a chunky gamer, right?
Well, and once again, we should always say, like, as we're in the summer season, getting into the summer season now, like, there's an obesity problem in America, and it's only... No, it's not little.
It's a little one. The problem, sarcastic little.
The problem is actually that people aren't little. The thing is I have a health problem that, like, legitimately was not my fault.
Yes.
And it will probably, like, causes me pain and will probably kill me. But, so to me, you got to enjoy life, and part of enjoying life is you don't have to be fit, you don't have to be ripped, you don't have to be, like, super skinny like I am, but you have to be able to go out and enjoy life.
Yeah.
And so we would encourage you to find that body that you want and try to get to it.
Yeah, I mean...
Don't wheeze walking up the stairs. That always aggravates me when I'm walking up behind the stairs with somebody and they start... and I'm like, come on, dude, I feel bad for you, but you're holding up the line.
So anyway, as part of my quest to become the more healthier Dave,
the Uber Dave,
you know, I've been doing the standard stuff, you know, watching what you eat, using a little app on my phone to track calories and all that. But I've also been playing, and I'm mildly ashamed to admit this, I've been playing some Dance Central 3 on my Kinect.
You shouldn't be ashamed. Dance Central is a very popular game. Now, you should be ashamed if you're playing Star Wars Kinect with I'm Han Solo, Han Solo.
No, my wife would kill me if I brought that home. She wouldn't.
I was in a pawn shop the other day, and they had the R2-D2 Xbox, and I was like,
You should have bought that. That would have been funny.
I would buy the R2-D2 Xbox.
It's pretty good. Did it come with the C-3PO Kinect, though? Because I believe the Kinect was the gold.
Oh, no,
Kinect.
I don't know.
Okay. Oh, no, the controller was. I don't know if it came with the Kinect or not. But anyway.
Well, they wanted way more than it was worth, so I was like, bah.
So I've been playing that a little bit, and it's kind of been helping. I think I've lost like 2 or 3 pounds since
Well, it's cool
started.
because, you know, we can't talk, we can't dance. The only thing about us is the way that we walk. So now that you're learning how to dance, you can cut a rug.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to learn how to dance.
There was 3 80s references.
There was, yeah, I knew those were references. I was just like, no, stop, please. Most of the people who watch
you don't like Phil Collins.
Most of the people who watch this don't know anything about those references. Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
We only have like 9 viewers. So.
Yeah. So maybe 2 of you might know what's going on. So yeah, it's neat. The catalog is kind of limited, but since I got a hard drive and my wife is like, oh yeah, let's buy some songs, so we bought some songs, and it's not so bad now.
Yeah.
But it's you know, it's a neat little game, and it's a good way to, you know, mix playing video games and working out. Yeah. And same kind of stuff works with your you know, your PS3 and your Wii. I don't know if there's any Wii U games yet that use any of this stuff.
Isn't there a Wii U Fit?
I don't know if it's
out
out yet. I don't know if it's in the
launch
work.
with that.
I don't think they launched with that. But you know, you still have your Wii Fit. You have your EA Action Plus, or whatever.
EA Active.
EA Active games. Those are kind of neat. So you know, it's a good way to mix something that's good for you and something that you like to do.
Yeah, it's a good way to pass the time.
And it's a good way to pass the time.
I mean, I know when I used to run treadmill, I would just put the TV on.
Yeah, and so like I'm
not like just running.
I'm also doing something like that, but I'm listening to music. I've got my headphones on and whatever. So, but it's a neat, it's an all right way to exercise while listening to somewhat modern music, because a lot of that stuff is like a year and a half old now.
Well, whatever.
But they keep adding tracks. It's like Rock Band. They'll do
we're so old. We can't.
Shut up. Anyway, so what have you been up to this weekend?
I was playing Operation C, which is by Ultra. Ultra is the company that Konami made because Nintendo said you can't release more than 8 games in a year, and Konami said, balls to that, we'll just make this Ultra company and we'll release it through there.
Okay, so now we know the history of Ultra games.
Yeah, so Operation C is actually the Contra for the Game Boy.
Okay.
So I was vintage stocking the other day, I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago. I said I picked up a bunch of Game Boy games because they had like this huge stack of Game Boy games.
And you've been playing them on your Game Boy thing for your GameCube.
Yeah, the Game Boy Advance player for the GameCube.
Yes.
Which I highly recommend. Like, that's the reason.
If you have a GameCube, you need to get one of these.
Yeah, and make sure you get the disc because it doesn't work without the disc and you can't burn the disc. And it's really fun. They actually stripped it down. It's kind of halfway between the levels from Super C and Contra, so Golden Age. There's a flamethrower. Okay. There is a homing shot, and then there is 2 levels of spread shot. Those are your only power-ups. So no more laser.
Yeah. But I mean, you're talking a Game Boy game, and is this like a Game Boy Color era game or a black and white?
This is like one of the first Game Boy games.
Okay, so it is a very old.
Yeah, I went back to one of my Nintendo Power strategy guides for the Game Boy, and it's actually in there.
Oh wow!
So
that's pretty old.
Yeah. So, but it is super fun. Once again, super challenging, and it plays just like Contra.
Okay.
Once again, if you're playing it on the Game Boy Advance, you're playing it on the Game Boy Color, or on your Game Boy Advance player, left and B selects the black and white palette, which is what it should be seen in.
Okay, because that's what it was originally in.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it's super fun, super big, and you're not going to... Game Boy games, as Nintendo games and Super Nintendo games, are going up in price because people our age have now disposable income.
And you know, we want that nostalgic feeling of playing these games that we played when we were like 8 or 10 or 11.
Yeah, so as like people like that, you know, we're talking now about games like Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island becoming rare, even though they're not rare, there's a ton out there.
Yeah.
They're in high demand. Game Boy games are the new golden land for collecting, because these things are still rock bottom prices. I mean, I got Gargoyle's Quest.
Unless you're trying to get Pokemon, and then you're paying like $25 for a red or blue original.
Or if it has Mario in the case. If it's Mario in the case, you can add $10 to the average cost of a Game Boy game.
Mario World is still pretty cheap, I think.
Mario Land is cheap. Because once again, very common. They made them for a long time. Yeah. The Game Boy was supported for a very long time, so there's a lot of print runs of these games.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of these cartridges sitting around. You go to any of these old titles, you'll see just boxes and boxes and boxes. Or like at Vintage Stock, they have them in baseball card binders.
Yes. Actually, the good Vintage Stock doesn't have a baseball card binder, they have in baseball card boxes. So I had to you could flip through really quickly.
At least with the binders, you can go, okay. Yeah, this you have to start dragging them out one at a time. That's kind of a pain in the ass.
But yeah, so I mean, like I said, I got Gargoyle's Quest by Capcom, Operation C, and the first Turtles game for $10. 3 of them for $10.
The first Turtles game for the Game Boy. Which one was that?
Wasn't Back to the Sewers. Back to the Sewers is the second one. Back to the Sewers is the better one.
Okay.
This one was the Foot Clan.
Okay.
Follow the Foot, I think.
I remember. I think I might have had that game at some point, but I don't remember.
The Follow the Foot Clan, the first one is based off the first Nintendo game, so it's not that good.
Okay.
And then the second one is based off the sprites from the second Nintendo game.
Okay.
So it's better, but it's not like a beat 'em up. It's still side-scrolling.
Okay.
So anyway, you can get these super cheap. So once again, when you're looking at retro gaming, you're looking at collecting, pick up a GameCube, pick up a Game Boy Advance player.
Yes.
And the skies will open up. They have advanced games are cheap now.
You now have 3 generations of Game Boy games you can play.
Game Boy Advance games are cheap. Game Boy Color games are really cheap, although there's a lot of trash you have to sift through.
There's a lot of junk.
And original Game Boy games are super cheap. Like I saw, you could get all 3 Final Fantasy games for the Game Boy, which are not actually Final Fantasy games. They're actually Saga titles. But you could get all 3 of them for $10 at Vintage Stock. And I was like, that's an awesome deal.
For $10, yeah.
So next time they have one of their buy 2 get 1 free sales, I told the guy, I was like, I'm coming in here and I am taking that binder with me.
Okay. Have a good day.
Yeah. So it's our Xbox show. So this is going up on Sunday, the 19th. The Xbox thing is the middle of the day on Tuesday, the 21st.
Which is really weird. Why are they doing it at noon? Well, it's 10 a.m. Pacific time,
right? I think the thing is Sony did theirs at 5 o'clock on the 5 o'clock our time, 6 o'clock on the Eastern Seaboard on a Friday. So people were out. It was before they went out. They had everyone's attention, and I think Microsoft doesn't really want that. I think they want this to just be, if we waited until E3, it would look like we were being weak. Like we're just doing this to do it. Like they want it to be more like an Apple or a Nintendo Direct. This is basically for our fans and the press. Whereas Sony's thing was like,
this is for everybody. But you know,
it's pay attention to me.
Yeah, I've already scheduled Tuesday off, so I'm going to be home and I'm going to be watching this thing anyway, just because I want to.
Yeah, I'll be home.
Well,
but I might not be watching.
Well, you don't have an Xbox, you can't watch.
No, it's on like everything. It's on Spike. It's on.
That's the other thing. It's on TV versus the Sony one wasn't actually.
Sony wasn't on TV.
It wasn't.
So that might also have a bit to do with it. You know, Spike obviously doesn't want to give up a primetime spot in a Friday night lineup.
They should, because that's their target audience, right?
I have no clue who Spike's target audiences.
Anyway, so here we are. This is our last chance to speculate about what we're going to see in the next box.
Wild speculation.
What it's going to be named. What if they announce a price at all or a pricing scheme?
They're not going to announce a price.
You don't think they're going to announce a pricing scheme? Possibly any launch titles. We obviously know that this new Call of Duty is going to be one of the first games that comes out on it.
There's a rumor that the ex-Infinity Ward developers, their first
Sledgehammer Games now?
No.
Oh.
Sledgehammer was ex-EA.
What are they called? Anyway,
they're Respawn?
Respawn, that's what it is, yeah.
There's a big rumor that their first game is going to be online all the time and only on the Xbox, the NextBox.
That doesn't surprise me, but...
As for the name, we've heard Xbox Infinity.
We've heard
Xbox 720.
Yeah.
NextBox, the new Xbox, and just Xbox.
They're just going to rebrand Xbox is going to be this.
And if those names, if I were to take my pick, I'd say you just rebrand everything Xbox.
Yeah, because Xbox Infinity sounds like it's a game it's a system you're never going to get rid of, right? Like that's what it
I think
would
it
sell
sounds
me
stupid. I think it sounds stupid in the same way that Xbox 360 sounded stupid. Like your competitor has PS3. So you can't be Xbox 2.
Because nobody's going to want a 2 over
3. So you have to be Xbox 360, which is dumb.
It is kind of silly.
And what do we call the 360?
The Xbox, as everybody calls it the Xbox anyway.
Yes. So, well, the iPad, iPad 2, the new iPad, just call it an iPad.
It's the iPad, but the Apple.
They don't call the new Mustang the Mustang 2
or the Mustang 2014 or whatever it is.
It
is a 2014 Mustang.
It's still a Mustang.
Yeah. Whether you like Ford or not, that is not up for argument. It's just,
I mean, but just calling something the Xbox.
Yeah,
or just
a very simple
Xbox.
name would be nice, right? Yeah. Like, 'cause everybody already calls their system the Xbox. Now that has the same brand confusion problem that the Wii and the Wii U have.
Yep.
So you would.
Why would you buy the Xbox when you get the Xbox 360?
Yeah, it's whatever. But
that's why I thought the NextBox was a wonderful.
It's a silly name because once it becomes their primary console,
it's no longer the NextBox.
The NextBox is just
that's the problem with the new iPad. Once it's no longer the new iPad, it's still
just
called the new iPad.
It's just the iPad. So they have to find a name that kind of strikes the right balance between not confusing it with our old product and.
Well, they can't call it the
Xbox. Keeping it,
They can't put a number behind it. Well, because if they put a number behind it,
it has to be bigger than 360.
An Xbox 720 is stupid.
Yeah, well, that's what you said about 360. So you know, we don't know what it's going to be called. We know from what we've gathered.
I've heard that it's going to be called the Xbox 8 because Windows 8 and Xbox 8. And I think that is even dumber.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
like you're really
the
digging
Infinity logo. You turn it
but
90 degrees and you have an 8.
I really think the Infinity the Infinity name came out as a joke.
It was like a Reddit troll or something.
Yeah, well, no, but during the PS4 press conference, Justin McElroy decided to have some fun, and was like, "Oh, I just got an email from Microsoft announcing Xbox Infinity." Special thing next week, and people ran with it, and Justin McElroy kind of had a pretty big laugh.
Yeah.
So now, fast forward a few months, someone on Reddit makes the Xbox Infinity logo.
Yes.
And it gets picked up by international business news.
And people are running with it.
And people are running with it.
But we don't know anything about the system. We assume it's going to be very similar to the PS3 in hardware specs.
Well, let's do with what we did with the PS3 before we get into too wild speculation. What do we expect to see? Here's what I expect to see. I expect to see the console because Sony didn't show it.
Yes.
So they can at least go, here's a plastic box that the guts are going to fit inside.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to get too bogged down in hardware because I think their hardware specs don't match the PS4's.
They may not, or they'll be so similar that it's not
worth
deal.
It. I think what you're going to hear at this press conference, you didn't hear it at Sony's press conference, is they're going to be like, we have Netflix, we have MLB TV, we have, what did they just add? Machinima and all this other stuff.
Crackle? They might have added a Crackle app too.
Which is hilarious. I still laugh there's a Crackle app on the Xbox.
I don't know. I don't use my Xbox online, so.
Xbox fans, every time you use the Crackle app, Sony gets money.
Good job.
Good job. It's kind of like Vio's running Windows 8.
Hey, well,
But I think you're going to see a lot more entertainment type stuff, and they're going to show you the new Kinect and how the new Kinect can be your cable box remote. And your DVR, and you can be like, fast forward, back up.
And hopefully the Kinect will work this time instead of being the kind of gutted thing that we have.
I read a very funny article on interface design about how Minority Report and the iPhone have put us like
years behind
where we should be in terms of interface design, because waving your hands and not feeling anything is stupid. And gliding your hands across glass and not feeling anything is even worse. And they're basically like, the idea behind this is when you interact with something with your hands, you're interacting with touch.
Yes.
And that's how we touch type.
Yeah.
And that's how we do a lot of things. That's how you hold a controller. How you know where everything is on the controller is it's haptic response.
It's tactile.
Haptic.
You feel it.
Tactile feedback, and people are like, oh, my phone has haptic response. Your phone doesn't have haptic response.
It buzzes.
Your phone buzzes when you touch it. That's not the same thing. You know, talk to a blind person about haptic response, and you talk about Braille and how they can use. If you've ever seen a visually impaired typewriter, it's a line with a scroll bar, and as they scroll through, the beads pop through the line, and they can feel what's going on, and it's really quick and really fast and really intuitive, and because
they use their fingers, because they see with their hands, because their eyes don't.
Yes. So doing this doesn't mean anything. That's the problem with a lot of the Kinect games and a lot of motion controlling in general, is just doing it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. So hopefully the new Kinect will
do something.
Obviously you're not going to have, you probably won't have gloves, we hope, but it will hopefully be more accurate. It may come with like 2 Kinect sensors that are 2 eyes each, so that it has 4 eyes on you to figure out.
Yeah, and they need to have something to like go against this new PlayStation Eye camera.
I don't even. Oh yeah, because it's basically a Kinect. It's like a little two camera bar with an infrared sensor, right?
I don't know that it has an infrared sensor,
but we don't know what it has.
The 2 cameras are high enough resolution that it can depth percept and build the room around you.
And that's kind of cool.
The other thing I've heard a lot about is the Illuma Room.
Where it lights up and then it's like basically displays whatever it is environment you're in.
Yeah, so you're looking at the TV, but around the TV is added stuff. So like if something explodes on the TV, the sparks fly out into the room.
Yeah.
The problem with that is to get that to work, and this is the one thing Microsoft isn't telling anybody.
Yet.
To get that to work, you need a projector behind you.
Or above you in a very centralized location.
Yeah. And no one's going to have that at home.
Unless it comes with one. Unless it's something that you run a cord up to the top of your in your living room.
Hypothetically, if it came with I
mean, this is a lot of stuff to shove in a box.
Yeah. If it came with an Illuma Room projector, it would cost upwards of $1,000. It would be
expensive, yes.
And I don't know if you guys know about HD projectors. I use them in my job. The bulbs go out with pretty good frequency, so much so that they can actually manufacturers can time when the bulb is going to die.
And send you a new one.
And send you a new one based on like the feedback of, like when you start up the projector, it says you have so many hours left on this bulb.
Huh. Well, I mean,
so that's not feasible. I think what you're going to see, I think one of the big surprises would be if they came out and they said, it's a cable box.
That wouldn't really be a big surprise though, because they've already been pushing for that for a while with all the HBO,
sign up for Time Warner, sign up for
Comcast,
the Xbox. You know, they would have to have a large staple of providers. They'd have to have Time Warner, Comcast, Sure West. Trying to think of what the one is in the Northeast. So there would have to be a lot of these, and they would have to say, you sign up for their service. This is $200 on top of your normal setup bill, and then an extra $20 a month. Which I think
but it would then act as a DVR. It would, it would act,
and that always
act as your cable
box. That always on isn't so much of a problem then,
because you're connected to your cable box through your Xbox or your cable.
They have said that it doesn't need to be online to play video games. They haven't said it doesn't have to be online to install video games. Because according to design documents, all video games developed for the NextBox
have to be Xbox activated like on Steam or
and they run off the hard drive, not off the disk drive.
Which is good, except you'll eventually...
That whole running off the hard drive and not off the disk drive leads me to believe that they're using Blu-ray. Because they want no load times.
These things come with big-ass hard drives then. And that's the other thing. Like, hopefully it will come with
I have a 500 gigabyte hard drive in my PS3, and it told me the other day that it's full.
Yeah.
I need to delete stuff.
Well, I've got I put a 200 and something gig hard drive in my Xbox just recently, and I've installed Final Fantasy 13 to it, and that's it. So, but it sucks that you have to swap out the discs because there's some amount of data that is cached to the disk that they didn't put on your system. But yeah, so this NextBox is it's going to be neat. It's going to be.
I think the really big story, and because I'm not an Xbox gamer, I've never really been one. There's the exclusive games over there. The exclusives are how I make my decision. The exclusive games on that box aren't as enticing to me as exclusives on Sony's box, or even as exclusives on Nintendo's box. But I think what the interesting thing is going to be is the release date.
Yeah, we don't know. Like, we still don't know.
I mean, my original gut feeling based on like how broken the news coming out of the Microsoft camp has been, and how stuff's not working right, and does it need online? Does it not need online? Even developer communities being like, we don't even have dev kits yet. My initial gut feeling was that this was going to launch in the spring or summer of next year, of 2014. And now the scuttlebutt is that they are going to go head-to-head with Sony.
They're going to try to push it out before the end of this year to kind of not lose the edge on Sony that they had with the Xbox
Which is funny considering last time they pushed it out to get it out a year before Sony, and we had the Red Ring of Death. What are we going to have now?
I don't know.
Like, is this thing going to be solidly built?
Like, right?
Yeah, is this thing going to be solidly built? Is it? I mean, the launch PS3s are tanks. They're big, sturdy machines.
Monsters. But they also run super hot.
And it took physical damage twice for mine to go out of commission.
Yeah.
Whereas the launch Xbox 360s have mortality rates in the triple digits, which is funny because the mortality rate only goes to 100%.
My Xbox hasn't died yet.
Your original Xbox, launch Xbox?
I didn't have a launch Xbox. Besides, I sold it to buy a PS3.
I'm just saying, a launch Xbox.
A launch Xbox probably, yes, at some point would eventually die. But all electronics will eventually die.
No, I'm just saying, like, they have a very high. There was a problem.
In less than 2 years, there was some problem with them, and they would break down. But yeah, I mean, this Xbox event is going to be neat. We're guessing it's only going to be about an hour and a half, maybe, especially if it's on Spike.
The Sony thing was an hour and a half. I think that I would peg this one as an hour just because it's on Spike.
Yeah, and you know, I'm fully expecting them to talk a little bit about the architecture. Obviously, they didn't go into great depth in the Sony press conference. They'll probably say...
I would say they went into as much depth as you ever get on a console.
I mean, you're not
They said it has this, and this.
And that's it. And that's all I expect out of them. Probably maybe 2 slides that say, hey, we've got, 8 gigs of RAM, an AMD blah, blah, blah processor with this ATI-esque card.
I think we're both operating off. You think they're comparable. I think Microsoft's going to try and save money by going a little bit lower.
Well, so like the
and
Sony
if they
box,
say anything less than 8 gigs of memory, like Sony did, it's going to be perceived as weak.
Here's the deal, right? Like the Sony box, we already know is going to have GDDR5, right? This is what you get on high-end video cards. You're saying that they're going to try to cut costs. Yes, you can get DDR3 for a freaking quarter of the cost.
Yep.
You can get the same amount, if not more, for a quarter of the cost.
But I'm saying, even if they come out and they say there's 64 gigs
of DDR2,
it's not going to be 64 gigs of DDR2. People are going to go, it's
DDR2.
It's not as good as 5.
No, it's not.
And they're going to go, oh, that's a problem. So I think if they say anything, when you
think about it, it really isn't a problem because having 8 gigs of RAM is having 8 gigs of RAM, no matter what way you cut it. Now, yes, it is.
Well, there's access times.
It is faster to use, but when you're talking about data transfer, your limiting factor is always where the data comes from. If it's coming off a disk or if it's coming off a hard drive, it's significantly slower than coming off of the RAM anyway. So it doesn't really matter how fast the RAM is, provided the hard drives are your bottleneck, or your disk drive is your bottleneck. Because it's not like you're going to have 60 gigs of non-volatile RAM that you can load games into. It's not like they're going to put they might put solid state drives in these things. We don't know. Those things are cost prohibitively expensive, but they might allow us to put our own, 500 gig or 250 gig solid state drives that will allow us to have incredibly fast read times to help cut down on the load times and, maybe even eliminate load times to a certain point. Because, open world games, whenever you change zones, there is those big load times. Like, with Skyrim, whenever you would go into a dungeon, you would have to sit there and look at a load screen for, anywhere between 10 and 30 seconds, which isn't a long time in the grand scheme of things, but what if there wasn't a load screen? You would go to the door, boom, it was there.
I'm just saying from a PR perspective.
Yes, they will look at
That's
it.
my wheelhouse. That's where I come from.
Yeah.
Unless it is the exact same or markedly better,
they won't. They shouldn't.
They
mention
wouldn't
it.
say anything.
They should not
because
mention
it will be viewed as.
Or
a
they might just say we have 8 gigs of RAM.
It'll be as a reason not to buy it. Well, if they say we have 8 gigs of RAM and they don't say we have 8 gigs of
DDR5 or whatever,
people are going to go, well, is it not DDR5? And that'll be a reason not to buy it. Once again, this is all for the hardcore super nerd people.
The guys like me who look at that look at it.
Like you and I, because we're the people that buy consoles in the first year.
Yeah.
We're the lost leaders.
We're the guys who are going to go. We're the early adopting suckers. But I've already made my decision. But anyway.
So that's why I don't think we're going to get a lot into the specs.
Yeah.
I think what they're going to do is they're going to show you the new Kinect and how the new Kinect is going to revolutionize your life, just like they showed us the old Kinect and how the old Kinect was going to revolutionize our lives. I think they're going to show us all these media partners because that's something Sony didn't do.
And that's something that Xbox has been pushing to do for a while anyway with the Xbox Live set. I'm really hoping they do Xbox Live and they do the smart thing and they say, okay, you can play Xbox Live, you can play with your friends online for free, or at a, hey, you bought a thing, you get 2 years free of Xbox Live or something like that. And even then, when you do have to pay for it, it's only like $10 a year.
I think Xbox Live is how they finance this new box.
That is how they financed it, but they need to find a better way to do it, and they need to make it worth the money to pay that $5 a month, or
especially when their competitor is giving away for less money free games.
Well. Depends on the payment plan that you have. A year of Xbox Live is $60. A year of Sony's, if you pay it on the 3-month increments like I do, is $60. So it's the same if you.
Why don't you do the?
Because I don't know. I'm an idiot. You heard it here first, guys. Dave's a dumbass. But
GIF that.
Somebody make a GIF out of this. But I want them to redo Xbox Live and have a free option that allows you to play online. Now, it may not allow you to have all the features. Like you're not going to be you can't use it to watch Netflix or whatever.
Well, yeah.
But that's kind of silly in and of itself. Is you're already paying for
we
Netflix.
We know these systems are going to have Netflix. They're going to have Hulu because
Netflix
at this point, if it's an electronic device, it just has those things.
Because that stuff's easy to access and so on and so forth.
I think what you're going to see, what you're not going to see a lot of is games. I think they're going to roll out 2 or 3 titles.
One of which we know is going to be that Call of Duty Ghosts game. They've already said that they're going to have an exclusive look at it running on NextBox hardware at the thing.
So I would say you're maybe going to have, we've already announced one, probably might have more than 2 or 3.
Probably 3 or 4.
3 or 4. But not a lot, not as many as Sony had, because that's not going to be Microsoft's focus. For this box, because they're going to want to, if they have any games in the pipeline, we're really close to E3. So if they show us Ghosts now, they really can't show us Ghosts in 3 weeks.
Well, those guys are going to show more of Ghosts, right?
Well, yeah,
they're going to show newer stuff. They're probably going to have
there's a big difference
3-minute gameplay trailer.
Yeah, there's a big difference between May 21st. Well, there's a big difference between February 20th.
Yes.
And the middle of June. There's not a big difference between May 21st and the middle of June.
The first week,
because you can't build that much more. I imagine we're going to see Killzone, Shadowfall.
We'll see more of the new Killzone at E3.
Yeah.
We probably won't see a lot of new stuff.
And if it's on in the press conference on the stage, you're going to see something markedly different than what we've already seen.
I hope. Now, we saw the same, when they showed the Final Fantasy thing at the Sony press conference.
Yeah, that was stupid.
The same thing from E3 of last year.
Dumb.
Now, they did say...
if I was Sony, I would not have let them show that.
Well, then
I would have said, you guys can trot it out, say that you're going to show them something at E3, and then leave. But do not show them shit they've already seen.
They were showing that it was running on PS4 hardware. I believe the E3 one from last year was shown on PC hardware.
Well, I would have, if once again, if I were Sony, I would have said, if it's running on PS4 hardware, you need to make it look different.
It needs to not be the same
it's
tech
different.
demo.
It's different camera angles, or we get a different part of it,
or
like
some
she
of
rides
it's
the
player
dragon
control,
longer.
or you can mess with the thing, because they did the same thing with the Epic. The Epic thing was the exact same tech demo, but it's still neat to see that the stuff that they were running at E3 6 months ago is now running on PS4.
Yeah. So but Microsoft can't do that.
Well, they could, but it wouldn't be smart.
Because now we've already seen that twice,
yes.
and we've seen it on Sony. And thank you, whatever, next.
Yeah, so we need to see.
That's why you don't show up second.
Yeah.
That's what they always said. We're number 2, and that's why we try harder. if you're number 2, you have to try harder.
Yeah, you do.
Sorry, Microsoft.
Yeah.
That's them's the breaks.
Yeah.
So I think we're not going to see a lot of games, and because they're going to want to keep those they're going to keep something for E3.
Yes.
And they have less time between now and E3
Than Sony
to
has
get
had.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like Sony's had months. Like, okay, we've seen knack. It wouldn't. I don't know how long it takes to build a level in knack, but it can't take months and months and months.
Like, it depends.
So
on
maybe
how
we
large
see a new level of knack.
Yeah,
know?
they might show more outdoor environments. They might show some better lighting, like some weird lighting.
Like that Witness game by Blow was pretty much already done.
Yeah,
like you could just show us more puzzles.
Yeah, but then why would you? If that's the entire point of the game, why would you show everybody the puzzles? So, it is pretty neat. I do want to,
It'll be interesting.
I want to see what's
the
going
time
on.
of console life is always interesting.
Yeah, especially when you're like, okay, this is what the box is. This is what we're going to have in it. Now, did you say that you already think that we're going to see the box? Because
I think because Sony didn't show it,
Microsoft should.
Microsoft should.
Okay, and I don't
because
know,
it's a lot when you're number 2. When you're number 1, you have the stage to yourself. You can do whatever you want.
When you come first.
When you come second, you got to top the other guy. Or if you can't top him, you have to do something
You
different.
have to match him at least. So I don't.
So you might not see guts in the box, but remember when they announced the new Xbox 360?
Yeah.
And they had the specially molded old Xbox 360
that went over it?
That was wider and wasn't the actual shell of the original. Like, I think they're going to do that.
They'll be like, here's the next one, and it's whatever.
It's just a plastic shell with no guts in it, maybe some LED lights, so it looks like it's running.
Yeah. But it'll be an interesting show. I think we probably won't see an Xbox controller redesign because everybody who has an Xbox likes the Xbox controller the way it is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty impartial either way.
Sony did a good job at reinventing the wheel. Because I thought the DualShock, I was never going to want something more than that DualShock.
Well, we don't know yet. We don't know if it's a lot heavier, like if that touch click pad has added a lot of weight. We don't know anything about it because neither of us have had it in our hands yet. We'll probably see that around October of this year. We'll start seeing those tech demo things.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So we'll be back next week, of course, talking about what they actually showed and how we were all wrong and all our predictions sucked and how I'm a horrible Sony fanboy.
He is.
But until then, don't forget to spay and neuter your Pokemon. We will see you next week.